I'm also an engagement executive. I service a handful of different states, but we'll be primarily focusing on Arizona today. So I'm happy to have you all here, and it's nice to touch base.
And next, we'll have Patty with the SBA introduce herself.
Hello, good morning. I'm Patty Brewer with the Small Business Administration Office of Manufacturing and Trade. I'm a finance specialist, so I look forward to talking with you.
Yes, and then Sandra with EXIM Bank.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. My name is Sandra Doncella, and I'm a member of the Western Regional Office of the Export-Import Bank of the U.S., or EXIM, and I look forward to speaking with all of you today.
Thank you. And then last but not least, we have Juan Sanchez with the Department of Agriculture for New Mexico.
Good morning, everyone. As Kate mentioned, Juan Sanchez, New Mexico Department of Ag. I'm at your service if you guys have any questions of any upcoming projects or about WUSATA in general. Be happy to chat with you.
All righty, thank you. I'm now going to share.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and get started. Okay, so as you know, I'm Patty Brewer. Next slide, please. I'm with the Office of Manufacturing and Trade. And so if you're looking at exporting, you've heard these facts before. 95% of customers live outside the United States. But you probably didn't know that of all the exporters in the United States, 98% of those companies are small businesses. And that means that 1/3 of what is exported from the United States is attributed to small businesses. So it's quite an impact, an economic impact for our country. And it's also been shown that companies that are exporting have stronger business growth. So they last 10 years longer, they have 3 times more employees and 2 times more sales. Next slide, please. So if you're looking at exporting, whether you're already an experienced exporter or you're looking at exporting for the first time, you do want to take a look at some of our partners that can help you answer questions, help you make some smart decisions. The first group is SCORE. There are mentors around the country, and some of those mentors are, they're experts in either strategic planning or social media. So go to that. When you get these slides, this is a clickable icon. So go to the SCORE website, take a look at the different mentors around the country and see what those specialties are. And you might be able to find someone who can help you answer a specific question you might have in your planning for entering the global market. You also want to take a look at your local small business development center. This is an area where you can get low-cost training and free one-on-one counseling from the Small Business Development Center, whether you need help understanding bookkeeping or writing a marketing plan or writing a business plan. The Small Business Development Center is always a good first step. And then my colleagues at the U.S. Commercial Service, these are the folks who, when you start looking at exporting and figuring out which market you should expand into, these are the folks who are going to help you do that market research. And so they can help you figure out logistics. They can help you coordinate one-on-one meetings with potential buyers or with distributors. So these are really key folks to have on your team as you expand into the global market. Next slide, please. And then, so the shifting gears back to the Small Business Administration Office of Manufacturing and Trade, we can help you in terms of providing you advice and advocacy on small business exports. So if you're looking at how a trade agreement impacts you, we can get you some smart people to talk to answer those questions. We also have the STEP grant that helps you reimburse some of your costs to market to the international buyers. And then we have 3 finance programs specifically designed for exporters. Next slide, please. So when you start coming to the SBA, we work with our lender partners. And so your local lenders will be involved in the SBA program. If you're looking at SBA financing, you need to make sure you are a small business and that Most of the programs require you to be in business at least 12 months. Not all programs, so you definitely want to ask that question when you start looking at SBA financing. But one of the key core requirements that can't be waived is that your company has to be 100% owned by a U.S. citizen or individual with legal permanent resident status. Next slide, please. So again, looking at eligibility, you have to be a for-profit small business in order to apply for SBA financing. And in terms of an exporter, you can either be a direct exporter, which means you're selling directly to your foreign buyer, or you can be an indirect exporter. So you might be selling to a domestic company, but they're taking your product and they're integrating your product within another product and shipping that whole thing overseas. So whether you're a direct exporter or an indirect exporter, you're still considered an exporter and eligible for SBA financing. Next slide, please. So some things that are not eligible, if you are selling goods to the U.S. military overseas, that's not considered an export because your buyer is the U.S. government. So even though you're shipping overseas, when we look at what's eligible for exports, we're very often looking at who is the buyer. So I can't help you if you are a hotel or a gas station. I can't help you if you're selling to Cuba, Iran, or North Korea. And I can't help you if you are selling to sanctioned parties. Next slide, please. So these are the 3 loan programs that the SBA developed for exporters, and you kind of want to look at them as a spectrum. So as you start out in exporting, you might consider an Export Express loan program. Typically, those loans are less than $500,000, and they're a nice starter loan. So if you're just trying to figure out how to make this international trade work, the Express program is a nice way to start out. As you start growing and noticing increased demand for your product and you want to improve your capacity, then you might consider an international trade loan if you need increased warehousing space or you need to retool your shop. And then as you've been selling to your buyers for a while and you start negotiating terms, so typically you start out, your buyers are paying you cash in advance, but that starts to switch and your buyers want to pay on terms, let's say 30 days from invoice. So as you start negotiating and more of your buyers are purchasing from you on terms, you're going to experience a cash gap. You need some assistance managing that working capital. That's where this export working capital program comes into play. So again, these 3 programs kind of work with you as you start out as an exporter and as you grow as an exporter. Next slide, please. So these next couple of slides, what you'll notice is on the top 2 boxes are uses of funds, and on the bottom boxes are our loan programs and the grant programs. So as we go through the slides, you'll get a better visual in terms of understanding how each loan program covers uses of funds. Next slide, please. And we'll start out with the Export Express. So you notice it covers a lot. It's a very flexible program. You can either set it up as a line of credit or just help you set up standby letters of credit, or you can set up the Export Express to cover fixed assets, to do some debt refinancing or business acquisition. The key to the Export Express is that lenders are given authority from the Small Business Administration, which means the lender can approve an Export Express loan without coming to the SBA. So it all happens in-house within the lender's operations. Once they've approved it, then they let the SBA know that the loan has been approved. So it's a little bit of a faster approval process. Next slide, please. Next, here we have the international trade loan. So you see it covers a much more narrow group of uses of funds: purchasing fixed assets, permanent working capital, debt refinance, and business acquisition. So these are all big purchases. This is a term loan that you're going to be looking at. Next slide, please. And then we have export working capital, which is also has a more limited uses in terms of uses of funds. So it really is strictly to help you with that working capital, pre-shipment, post-shipment, or help with standby letters of credit, such as bid bonds or performance bonds. Next slide, please. So the export working capital can be set up in two different ways, either as a transaction-based, as it's described here, or as an asset-based, which I'll talk about next. When you set up an export working capital program as a transaction-based, you're receiving advances against signed export orders. And in this trade cycle you see here, you receive the export order on the top right, you receive an advance. So if you've got an order for $10,000, your advance might be $8,000. You take that $8,000 and you purchase inventory, you produce your product, you ship and you invoice. Once you receive payment, then you pay down that advance. You pay down that advance outstanding. And so that's how it works with an export working capital structured as a transaction based, where it's advancing cash against a signed export order. Next slide, please. In this next example, we've got an export working capital that's set up as an asset-based, which means you are receiving advances against inventory and accounts receivable. So you'll notice here we have a total borrowing base of $2 million. This borrowing base certificate is something you'll submit to your lender every couple of weeks, once a month, once a quarter. That's something that you negotiate with your lender, but it's going to outline the amount of inventory and accounts receivable you have, and that's how the lender calculates advances. Next slide, please. With a typical asset-based facility, not SBA guaranteed, but with a typical conventional asset-based facility, these are typically the advance rates, 40 to 50% on inventory, 70% on foreign accounts receivable, which means you would receive cash today of $800,000. Next slide, please. With an SBA guaranteed export working capital facility, the advance rates are higher, a little bit more consistent on the different categories of both inventory and accounts receivable, which more than doubles the amount of cash you can receive today to help you manage that working capital cash gap that you might have. So that's export working capital. The first example where the lender advanced against a signed purchase order was transaction-based. This example here is asset-based, where you are receiving advances against inventory and foreign accounts receivable. Next slide, please. So we're going to talk about some opportunities and figure out which loan programs might work best. But when you're looking at loan programs, you're going to notice a huge variety of loan programs. You're going to get overwhelmed with the amount of information that you see when it comes to loan programs, whether they're SBA or strictly conventional. So before you start looking at all these loan programs, ask yourself 3 questions. The first question you want to ask is, who's your lender? Every lender has their own favorite programs. Some love SBA, some prefer EXIM Bank. Others don't touch any of the guaranteed programs. So who's your lender and what programs do they work with? Next, how much do you need? So if you need only $35,000, maybe you want to stick with a micro loan program, and that's a whole other set of lenders. Or if you need something less than $500,000, then you want to stick to loan programs like the Express programs, because that's the amount of money that they typically ceiling out at is $500,000. If you need between $500,000 and $5 million, then you're looking at either the international trade loan, the 504 loan program, or the 7A loan program. So first 2 questions, who's your lender? Next question is, how much do you need? The final question is, what are you going to use the funds for? So in my previous set of slides, you saw the different squares and what each loan program supported. Again, by understanding what you're going to use the money for, that'll help direct you to which loan programs are best going to fit your needs. So when we look at expanding our warehouse space, maybe we're going to buy real estate. So first question, who's your lender? Do they work with these programs? Do they work with either international trade or export express? If the piece of land you're looking at purchasing to build your warehouse on is less than 500, maybe the express program is how you want to go. If the piece of land you're looking at is greater than $500,000, then maybe you want to go international trade loan. So who's your lender? How much do you need? But regardless of how you or which program you pick, because it's real estate, the structure is always pretty similar. 25-year repayment term, collateral is going to be the real estate. Next slide, please. So on our next example, we're going to look at cash to purchase inventory. So this again, you're going to need to set up some working capital. You can use either the international trade loan or the Export Express. If you set up an international trade loan for permanent working capital, it'll have a 10-year repayment. The Export Express, you can set up as a line of credit with a 7-year repayment. Again, who's your lender and how much do you need? Next slide, please. And here's an example of increasing credit terms to your buyer. So you need to manage that working capital gap as you wait for your buyers to pay you. You have a choice, either the Export Express, structured as a line of credit, or the Export Working Capital Program with advances against those foreign accounts receivables. Again, who's your lender and how much do you need? That's going to help you figure out which loan program is going to work best for you. Next slide, please. So the Export Working Capital Program has been really, really successful. And so what the Small Business Administration did was they decided to create this working capital pilot program, which is just like the Export Working Capital Program, but it doesn't have the export requirement. So if you are not currently exporting and don't plan to export, then you can use this loan program. If you export and sell domestically, you can use this program. So what they've done is they broadened the requirements to create a new program to make it easier for both lenders and borrowers who sell both domestically and internationally. Next slide, please. Okay, and our final program is the STEP grant. And this is a reimbursement program when you are conducting your international marketing or developing your e-commerce. Next slide, please. So each state manages their STEP grant. So for Arizona, you would go to the Arizona Commerce Authority. For New Mexico, you go to the International Trade Alliance. And again, these are clickable. So when you get the slides, you'll be able to go directly to those websites. Each state, again, manages their program. Each one's a little bit different, but eligibility, reimbursement requests, and applications are all online. So you'll be able to go in and figure out how to use the STEP grants to best enter the international market. Next slide, please. If you need more information from the Small Business Administration, you can go to Trade Tools for International Sales. We also have recorded webinars going back a couple of years that's on our YouTube page, and then our LinkedIn page has upcoming events. Next slide, please. For any additional questions you might have, you can contact Martin Sealander for Arizona and Jeremy Foreman who covers New Mexico. Next slide, please. And then, of course, I'm always happy to answer any of your questions. Here's my email and my phone number. Feel free to reach out after the webinar, and I'm here all morning to answer your questions during the webinar.
Oh, you're on mute, Kate.
Thank you. Okay, I'm sorry about that. So yeah, just thank you so much, Patty, for that. And Sandra, we're going to move on to your presentation. I also, Lydia, see that you threw a hand up, but we're going to wait for questions until the end of the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate. Good morning, everyone. My name is Sandra Doncella, and I'm a member of the Western Regional Office, as I mentioned earlier. And together with two additional colleagues, our office covers all the Western states. And I'm directly responsible for coverage of both Arizona and New Mexico. A little bit about myself. I've been with EXIM for a long time, over 20 years. And before I joined the organization, I was a lender. I was in international banking and directly worked with the programs that I'm going to be talking to you about today. So I have seen firsthand how valuable they can be in helping improve competitiveness and helping you capture growth opportunities globally. And I know it can be confusing because there's so many different programs available, both through our friends at the Small Business Administration, as well as our partners at WUSATA and EXIM. The main thing I would want you to try to remember is that EXIM can be a resource to you to address either your financing needs related to exporting or the credit needs of your customers. Next slide, please. So to give you a basic overview about the agency, EXIM, it's a federal government agency. We've been around for a long time, more than 90 years. And the mission is rather simple, is to support U.S. jobs and American manufacturing by facilitating U.S. exports. So U.S. job and exports is really what we're about. It's something that's very important to us. Like most agencies, we're located or headquarters are based in Washington, D.C., which is where all of the application processing takes place. And to be closer to the exporting community, we do have a network of field staff, folks like myself. We have 12 regional offices across the country, and our role in the field is to address any inquiries you might have about our various programs, help you determine which might be the best fit for your particular needs, and basically promote the fact that EXIM exists. And we can work with companies in various industries, as well as manufacturers, wholesalers, and services, and companies of all sizes as well, small, medium, and large. But having said that, we are very proud of the strong support EXIM has consistently provided to small businesses, which historically, for at least the last 3 decades, year after year, do represent the majority of our customers. Nearly 90% of all the application EXIM receives involve applications submitted by small businesses. And over 50% of those applications are from companies asking us to approve amounts under $500,000. So small business is our business. Next slide, please. Let's talk a little bit about the various program EXIM does. And we offer 3 main programs. We also have some newer initiatives, which I'm not going to really address during this presentation. The focus of my presentation today is going to be our export credit insurance program. Number 1 is because it represents EXIM's most demanded program, and also because our friends at the Small Business Administration offer a series of financing programs to address the credit needs of U.S. exporters. EXIM can come in depending on your situation, but we do offer an option for working capital. So if you do need financing to be able to fulfill international sales contracts or perhaps purchase orders that you're receiving from various countries, maybe worldwide, we do have a solution which would be a working capital loan guarantee, where EXIM can guarantee 90% of your loan. Like our friends at the Small Business Administration, this is a loan guarantee. It's not a direct loan product from EXIM. Our role would be that of a guarantor, guaranteeing 90% of the loan. So in other words, we can co-sign on behalf of an exporter to facilitate your ability to obtain financing from a bank. And we have our network of lenders that participate in this particular program. I guess very quickly, the main differences between EXIM and SBA's working capital loan guarantee are primarily when it comes to U.S. content. EXIM, and I'll get into that momentarily, Because our mission is to support U.S. jobs, we do require that the items be produced or made in the U.S. I believe SBA does not have that restriction. We also, EXIM can can work with businesses that have foreign ownership. And military, we do have a restriction with military buyers, which again, I'll cover later in my presentation. SBA does not have that restriction. So, okay, so let's talk a little bit about the second program is insurance. I'm going to skip that because I'm going to talk more about that momentarily. If you happen to export equipment, machinery, maybe it's ag equipment, mining equipment, etc., and you have a big ticket item being sold internationally, especially if you sell into a buyer in an emerging market or a developing country where access to a multi-year loan is more difficult to come by or could be very expensive, then EXIM does have a solution. It's our medium or long-term buyer financing loan guarantee program. Next slide, please. EXIM is open for support in most countries throughout the world, in over 150 countries. But knowing the buyer's country is also very important because we do have a country limitation schedule that will let you know what our position is in a given country. In some countries, we may have restrictions that could limit the ability to provide full support, while in other countries, we may be off cover completely, and that could be due to political reasons, such as maybe North Korea, Iran, etc. Or in some countries, we could be off cover due to the risk environment, the economic conditions of the country where we feel we just can't get what we require, which is reasonable reassurance of repayment. So Argentina is a good example, not to pick on Argentina, Ghana as well. We went off cover there last year. So looking at the country limitation schedule should be part of the determination to see if EXIM would be a good fit. Next slide, please. So let's now talk a little bit about EXIM's most demanded program, which is our insurance. Patty already described programs that could support your financing needs before you ship to take care of your export activity. But what about the needs of your international customers? As you negotiate business globally, you will likely transition from the quantity, the price, the specifications of your product to the payment terms. And that's where EXIM's export credit insurance can be a valuable solution when you come across a buyer that may be saying to you, you know what, we love to buy your product, and we may even be able to give you a portion in advance, perhaps as high as 50%. But the reality of the situation is that importers increasingly are gravitating towards doing business and making purchases from suppliers willing to give them some level of flexibility on the payment terms, typically 30 or 60 days. So just like your domestic clients, your buyers abroad will be looking for open account credit. And that's when you could look at EXIM for risk protection in the event of lack of payment by your international buyer. So basically, the main benefit of the program is risk protection. We can cover 90, 95%, or if you happen to be an exporter of bulk ag commodities, we could even cover 98% of your invoiced amount. So basically, this is insurance cover on your foreign accounts receivables or your export invoices when you decide to give a particular buyer a certain number of days to pay you after you ship the product. Once that risk is considerably minimized, the other benefit of the program is the ability for you to use it as a competitive tool to capture growth opportunities because of what I just said earlier. Buyers are increasingly making purchases and looking for suppliers willing to give them flexibility on the payment terms. And we can ensure repayment terms of up to 6 months for just about anything, unless it's a perishable. Say it's produce, fresh produce, it would only be 30 days. But maybe it's nuts. That could be 6 months or even a year if it's shipped in bulk. When we say bulk, we mean unprocessed and in at least 50-pound bags. So risk protection, the ability to use it to compete more effectively globally and capture growth opportunities, as well as it can be used as a for financing purposes. That's because all of our insurance policies can be assigned to your lender, and most lenders will finance your foreign accounts receivables, but generally only if they are insured. If you have insurance cover on your export sales, the banking sector will typically treat them just like they would domestic sales, and you could get an advance rate of up to 90% from most lenders. So it can increase your ability to get additional financing. Next slide, please. In terms of the options EXIM offers, we offer a variety of different policies depending on where you are in your export activities and your preference. If you're the type of company that maybe you're already actively exporting, perhaps you have a foreign customer base of 20 international buyers, and you want to just sleep better at night knowing that everybody is insured, then you could come to us for a multi-buyer policy where you can cover your entire foreign receivable portfolio. Everyone that's on credit would be insured. And if you're a small business, we have a small business policy. We also have another option. Sometimes exporters say to us, you know what, I don't want to insure all 20 buyers. Maybe I only want to insure 10, and those 10 perhaps are in riskier markets. Then, if that's the case, we can offer you a multi-buyer select risk, which is more of a negotiated portfolio. It's still a multi-buyer policy, so EXIM is going to look for reasonable spread of risk, but we're giving you the flexibility to exclude a portion of your portfolio. And the other option EXIM can offer is a single buyer policy. So if same example, say you have 20 international buyers, if you are perhaps concerned only with 2, then you would want to be very selective. You can come to us and pursue a single buyer policy. That's, as the name implies, is buyer specific, and it can ensure repeat sales to the same buyer or just one-off sales, and there our cover is 90%. So in other words, we basically have an insurance option for just about anyone. Next slide, please. And in terms of what we cover, so we cover lack of payment by the foreign buyer due to commercial or political reasons. Commercial loss would be insolvency or bankruptcy or situations where that buyer remains in business, but they're not paying. And you may or may not even know why. It could be due to, say, there's a downturn in their economy, perhaps a devaluation in their currency that results in lack of cash flow. Actually, lack of cash flow is the top reason why EXIM pays claims. It's one of the main reasons why exporters pursue the program. Even natural disasters. So say, God forbid, there's a tsunami or an earthquake, wipes off the buyer's operations, and that's why they don't pay. You would file a claim to EXIM, and we would pay. On the political front is the more obvious types of risks, such as war, revolution, insurrection, riots, or civil unrest, or it could be a government action that triggers lack of payment, such as the imposition of foreign exchange restrictions. So you may have a buyer that is willing to pay you. They may even have the funds deposited, ready for that wire transfer to be sent out. But if their government says no more US dollars out of the country, then you would likely incur a loss. That's something EXIM would cover. Or the cancellation of your buyer's import license or your export license for something that is not due to your own fault. So next slide, please. Let's talk a little bit about the pricing. I'll give you a couple of examples. We don't charge an application fee. There's no buyer underwriting fee, no renewal fee, and most of our policies have no deductible. We do charge a premium, and that premium will vary depending on which option you're pursuing, as well as the length of the payment terms. For the small business multi-buyer policy, for example, we have a predetermined premium rate schedule, which applies irrespective of the buyer's country. So for example, if you have a buyer in Mexico, and you decide you're going to give them no more than 60-day terms, then EXIM would charge you a little bit over half of 1% or 0.55%, and that's charged on the full invoiced amount. So on a $100,000 sale, it will be $550, or in a smaller sale, $30,000, it's only $165 in premium. And if you happen to be exporting and instead of doing straight open account credit, maybe you're doing cash against documents, then we charge a much lower premium. Under the small business option, it will be only 0.2% or 20 cents per each $100 of the invoiced amount. If you decided you wanted to be very selective and just want to give this a try with one buyer, then the buyer's country will be a factor in the pricing. So you can see in this slide, if you sell into Mexico under the single buyer option, it's a little bit more expensive than the small business multi-buyer, where you're insuring various buyers in various countries. Single buyer will be 0.75% for Mexico. Yet for Canada, it will be lower. It will be 0.49%. South Korea, it will be 0.56%. And this all assumes you are offering repayment terms of no more than 60 days. So it could be 30, 45, up to 60. And if you're looking for pricing indication, feel free to email me, and I'm happy to respond and even set up a call if you like. And I should highlight as well, you happen to have a loan that's guaranteed by EXIM or our friends at SBA under their Export Working Capital or Export Express, or it could be EXIM's Working Capital Loan Guarantee, and you pursue insurance, EXIM will give you a 25% discount on the premium rate. Next slide, please. And in terms of how this works, you do not need to have a firm purchase order to apply for insurance, but you should already have those international buyers already established and identified, because to apply, we're going to need that buyer's full name, address, and an idea of the credit limit that you would be looking at EXIM to insure. So number one, you want to identify that buyer, and we want to know the country. Now you're going to start negotiating that sale. They could say to you, we want 30-day terms. So you come to EXIM Bank to get them approved. We approve them. You ship the product. You wait 30 days for the payment to come in. And if it comes in, you're done. But if it doesn't come in, now you have the peace of mind of knowing that your sale has been insured by EXIM, and you're not selling just on the hope that you're going to be paid. You have, again, the risk protection from EXIM. Next slide, please. And to qualify international buyers, the credit information we would need, it's rather minimal, and it also depends on the dollar amount, the exposure you will be asking EXIM to insure. Up to 100,000, we just need one piece of information, which is a trade reference. More than that, we might need a credit report as well, and so forth. So we or underwriters will do due diligence on your buyer. In a way, you want this because you can think of EXIM as an extension of your international credit department. And if things go bad and you end up having a lack of payment, then we alleviate you from the burden of collection. Next slide, please. To qualify for EXIM's insurance and for really most of our programs, like I said earlier, we do require that the items that are being exported be made in the U.S. with over 50% U.S. content. And we measure content at cost, so the cost of the materials, components, as well as labor. Usually labor, U.S. labor, will bring it up substantially, but exclusive of markup. We do require a bit of history, ideally at least a 3-year sales producing history. That's a requirement that EXIM has on both the U.S. exporter as well as the importer. We may have flexibility if you are perhaps somewhat newer and don't yet have 3-year sales producing history, but we want to see ideally at least 1 full year and some exporting experience under your belt. You do need to re-register with Dun & Bradstreet as well as with a federal government website that's called System for Award Management, or SAM.gov, and have an active UEI number. And we do have at EXIM, we have a team at our headquarters in DC dedicated to assisting you go through that SAM.gov registration if you need help. And as I said earlier, the buyer will need to be located in a country where EXIM is open for support. Next slide, please. Just a few restrictions. EXIM has, it's unable to support in some cases exports where the buyer may be military. And this applies even if the nature of what's being sold internationally is non-lethal. So exceptions may be able to apply. I would say reach out to me if you have a particular situation you would like to run by us. It also, because we're here to support exports, we want to see that the product does leave the country. So you do need to ship from the U.S. to the buyer in their country. If it's a service, obviously, then there's no shipment, but the services will need to be performed by U.S.-based personnel. And the request needs to be proportionate to the size of your business. Next slide, please. And here's my contact information. Thank you again for your attention, and I encourage you to please reach out if you want to run by me a particular export transaction, or if you just need help determining if there may be a fit for EXIM to be able to be a resource to support your export growth. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra. All righty, so now we're going to talk about the Western United States Agricultural Trade Association, and I'll be presenting on the first half, and then I'll pass it off to my colleague, Justin. So yes, our acronym is WUSATA, which some of you may already be participating, and then some of you, this may be brand new information. So here we go. So a little bit about WUSATA is that we are a nonprofit trade association. We're funded by the Foreign Agricultural Services through their market access program. So that's how we are supported and how we're able to distribute funds to our companies. We've been in business for over 40 years, and we've, in those 40 years, have developed a strong network of resources and partnerships, just like with EXIM and SBA. Really, our mission and vision is to help you reach your business goals. We want to support businesses in thriving in international markets, and we do that through various programs, which we'll speak to today. Something to know about us, like as we introduced Juan with New Mexico this morning, we work directly with our departments of agriculture, as well as some different departments in the states listed here. So really we're serving the western region of the U.S. And so you can see here that if you have any other colleagues located in these areas, we can also provide these resources and services to them as well. Some qualifications that we have here, again, being headquartered in the Western U.S. region, just like I spoke to before, those states, being defined as a small to medium agribusiness. And really, we're looking to see that 50% of your products are at least sourced from the US. So that can be farmed, fished, or forested in the United States, because really, we're all about increasing US products, grown products abroad. So our little blueprint here, we're all about learning, connecting, and competing. And it's kind of a 3-step process. You can also start at the end and mix and match how you do it. But like today, we're here for export readiness. This is a completely free webinar. It's free for you to sign up and set up your account. And we're here to just provide information and education so that way you can better carry out your business goals. So with our export readiness program, we also, in addition to our webinars and educational events here virtually, we also are able to provide market intelligence reports. And so we have actually Nelda, who's on the call today. She is able to pull reports identifying, which regions would be prioritized for exporting your specific products. So you can have a consult with her. You can also always have a consult with one of your engagement executives to get this information, and we can provide that for you so you can do more targeted business. Secondly, we have our Global Connect. That's where we partner with the Departments of Agriculture, our members in the states listed, and we provide inbound and outbound trade missions, and also just special events where you're able to participate at a discounted rate. Then lastly, we have our Fund Match program, which is kind of the big honcho. It's that 50% cost share program, and that helps to get you eventually to up to $300,000 in annual reimbursements. Now walking through just, again, those 3 programs. So with that export readiness, as I spoke to, we have those market intelligent reports and we can provide that market data, but we also have connections with in-country experts. So we have a wealth of resources depending on what market you want to tap into, and we can provide those connections and that information and build that network for you. And then our Global Connect program. We also, under the Global Connect program, buy up trade booth spaces, and we can offer those at a subsidized rate. So here you see the list of the trade shows that we typically go to. We also have the full list found on our website. You can go to our events page and poke around and explore. You can also work with us to find out which trade shows would best fit your business. And then those inbound and outbound trade missions, which are really impactful, getting to meet buyers firsthand and have connections and conversations with them. And then we have trade leads as well. We've done a lot of research and networking to provide a wealth of resources for you, so you don't have to do that heavy lift all on your own. This is a free resource as well for WUSATA participants, and we pre-screen all of our connections for authenticity. We also match up our buyers by syncing your HS codes. And so when you sign up and have an account with us, it's really important to specify your products. And so then we can do some of that connection for you. And then Justin, I'm going to pass it off to you to cover our Fund Match program.
Awesome. Thanks, Kate. Let's go ahead and click on to the next slide here. So when we're looking at our Fund Match program, after we have gone through the Global Connect program and maybe checked out some buyers, we've looked at our export readiness program and maybe identified some good markets, now would be the time to really dive into this Fund Match program. This Fund Match program is really meant to provide that 50% cost reimbursement on your eligible international marketing activities. We also provide some cost reimbursements for domestic trade shows as well. If it's your first time, with us and you're not really quite as versed in the exporting world, you can receive up to $25,000 in reimbursement for your year 1. If you are versed, exporting is, kind of something that comes second nature to you guys. You've been into it for a while. Your first year, you can receive up to $50,000. After that first year is when you really start seeing that return on investment with that amount bumping up to $300,000 in reimbursement. That $300,000 in reimbursement, though, is a caveat. That's you spending $600,000 on eligible international marketing activities. I think an important note here is to really look at the minimum of the $2,500 back in allocation or the $5,000 requested for the year. Next slide. So when we're looking at some overall eligibility when we're looking at our fund match program, we're really looking that you're headquartered in the WUSATA region, that you're a small, to medium-sized business by the SBA guidelines, and that you've been, in business for about a year. As Kate said earlier, we are looking for your products to be at least 50% U.S. grown by weight, farm, forested, or harvested, and that you have that brand ownership. And when we're looking at our international realm, we'll get into this a little bit further, but we needed to have it clearly marked as a product of the USA, because we really are trying to get exposure to US agribusinesses abroad. Next slide. So when we're looking at that origin statement, this is really, really important stuff. FAS looks at this very closely, the Foreign Agricultural Service, and they want to make sure that, when we're helping you guys, get businesses abroad or get business abroad, that you really are supporting and showing that you are a United States agricultural business. So, we're looking at, product to the USA, made in the USA, grown in California, made in Arizona, made in New Mexico, those types of things and designations to help us, solidify that international marketplace presence. Next slide. Perfect. So when we're looking at, various reimbursement expenses, USDA pre-approved domestic trade shows like IDDBA, we're on that right now. We do help subsidize 50% of that booth costs. We know that it's extremely expensive to, come to these trade shows, to be a participant, and we really want to help you in any way possible. Some other things that we can help with in the domestic side is freight and shipping. When we're looking at our international realm, that's when things get a little bit broader. With our international trade missions, we're able to help out with label and packaging modifications if those are needed to satisfy foreign regulatory requirements needed to actually get into that market. Advertising, this is very broad. This is everything from things on top of taxi cabs, billboards, if you're running a banner at a soccer game, these, we see a lot of that. So, keep your eyes open, when you're traveling around and see what you see, and chances are that we can probably help advertise there. Other things that we can help with in the international realm are, the airfare, the lodging, meals, and incidentals. We will, help you out with per diem and, making sure that you guys are taken care of to really help hedge the cost when traveling abroad. Next slide. So when we're looking at the Fund Match program in particular, we have a rolling application year, and this means that applications are open from January 1st to December 31st, with applications opening for the next program year, August 1st. We do kind of nudge you a little bit to make sure you get those applications in early. The application fee is reduced from August 1st to December 31st at $300 and goes to $350 starting January 1st. So go ahead and next slide. So when we're looking at our website, these are just some overall tips for success. Make sure that if you have any questions, concerns, overall inquiries, me and Kate and our team, we're here to help. We want to help. We want to serve you guys and, make sure that you're getting the best out of, not only WUSATA programs, but the SBA programs and the EXIM programs as well. Again, we're here to be that partner, be that advocate for you. Some other great resources that we have on our website is the Fund Match Guide. The Fund Match Guide goes over everything pretty in depth. It is a very lengthy guide. We're looking at 60 to 70 pages, But with that, you do get a wealth of resources. You get timelines, you get eligible expenses, ineligible expenses, uh, time frames associated with your traveling and your per diem. A lot of great resources online, in regards to the fund match guide. Uh, Continuing on that vein, we also have a lot of review claims and tutorials on our website, that really walk you step by step through, submitting a claim or, label modifications or, questions on advertising. All of that kind of stuff is also available online, and we've done a lot of good work on our website lately to make that a lot more accessible to you folks. So with that said, I just want to go ahead and say thank you, and then we can go ahead and open it for questions. I just want Patty, Sandra, thank you. Kate, you did a great job helping with everything. So, just like to open it for questions now, but, just a quick thank you from all of you. Thank you.
Wonderful. Yes, thank you all. And just to reiterate, we are here to help. All of us are. So it can be scary, it can be daunting, but we are here. So anytime, just feel free to reach out, please. And Lydia, you've been so patient. So if you'd like to come off mute and ask your question, please feel free.
No, I just wanted to make sure or ask if you guys were going to put a link to the presentations, because I kind of want to go a little bit slower on that SBA loan. We currently have a loan with our bank, but there's a potential large order coming on board, and I just want to make sure that I have that in the EXIM put together. I did EXIM many, many years ago, but just a refresher.
Yes, absolutely. We'll be sending the slides and also the recording out to all of the registered participants. So you'll definitely have that resource for review.
Also, I think that
Thank you.
now would be a good time to just emphasize that we do have a survey, regarding all of our webinars. Please take the time to, fill out that survey and just let us know how we did. We all appreciate the feedback, and, using that constructive criticism to move forward in a better way.
Are there any additional questions?
Yeah, I have one other question. I think this is for Nelda. You're the one that does the reports, right? The
Yes, ma'am.
market reports? Okay.
Yes.
So often when I get a new vendor, they'll ask me, how does this type of product sell in the market? Let's say my specialty is Mexico. So I've had, I don't know, a company that sells cotton candy and another one that sells dried pasta. Well, we know that pasta in Mexico is extremely cheap. And so I need to come back to them and say, yes, we can sell your pasta, but per ounce, it's going to have to be this price. Or on the cotton candy, the market is quite small and we need to target this price. So do you have that kind of information, or do I need to kind of go do all the footwork like we usually do?
The information and the import-export data is what I can provide. So if you have an interest, you mentioned Mexico and exporting certain products to Mexico, I can go into the Euromonitor International and search that information. I could also go into what WUSATA states export to certain countries, depending on the product that you have an interest in.
Okay, so just send you
As far
a
as
quick
the
email.
pricing, and say specifically to your question on what you're talking about and how that wouldn't be coming from me, but we could
Okay.
definitely find
So it's more
a
volumes?
contact or a resource to assist you with that.
Oh, okay. Okay, perfect.
Thank you, Lydia. And thank you, Nelda. And also, everyone, this is Nelda. She's lovely. And she works in our export readiness department. So, well, if there's no more questions, then I will wrap up the call. And I just want to, again, thank you all for joining. If you have any questions regarding this presentation or any future questions, please feel free to reach out to me at kate@wusata.org. Additionally, Justin at wusata.org. So, yeah, thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
Oh, Ed, yes?
Thank you.
Yes.
Oh, you're on mute, Ed.
Let's see. You're on. Yeah. It's, Oh.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
There we go.
Our company, we're in the finishing the development stage, and we make a substantial, large growing system. It's a product that, or a bunch of hardware, software controlled, lots of processes to it. But anyway, we have it's a product or a system, let's call it, that produces food in large quantities in very competitive pricing. And the vast majority of it is either all natural or organic. And believe it or not, for a very small little company, we've had proposals we've put out across the world that would total approximately $1.4 billion. There's a lot of interest in food security and food sustainability, and we address those issues. My comment would be, first of all, the systems are, if they're large systems, and most of the ones we quoted are, large meaning that they would be above 5 million and up to 10 or even $15 million. The way we address our customer, they pay for shipping and all freight and import duties and the like. When the system, and they pay before we ship the system, we require them to pay approximately 80% of the cost before we would ship it out to, and currently we have a lot of activity in Ghana, Nigeria, Egypt, Jordan, Dubai, and so forth. And in the case of Ghana, we have two systems I'd like to acquire, one for a university, which would be a educational system, relatively small, approximate value 700,000. And they also are interested in buying what you would call a commercial large growing system. In this case, it's a system that produces 64 tons of fodder, barley fodder per day, every day. And it would be in the cost of approximately $16 million. In both cases, part of what we do is after the sale and the transport, and it gets where it needs to go, we were going to go there and install it, and the customer would pay the final 15 or 20% after the system has been accepted by them, in the sense that it's up and running properly. Installation can be in larger systems 10 months, 11 months, and training and startup can be a good 90 days. So in our case, it would be, let's say, 15 months before the customer would be willing to pay the last 15% thereabouts. So does that kind of a long installation time, is that possible through EXIM Bank to fund it for that length of time?
The short answer is it's something that could be considered under a transaction-specific credit facility, where you would see more flexibility for longer lead times. But if I hear you correctly, these opportunities are both in Ghana, correct?
These two that we're discussing are in Ghana, right?
So unfortunately, EXIM is off cover in Ghana at this time.
Okay.
So we will not be able to play a role. If the country risk, however, could be externalized, and there is the backing from perhaps say a local bank in a country where EXIM is open for support, then we could base our decision based on the strength of that local bank guarantee.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Uh,
Let's assume it's another country where we are open, hopefully without any restrictions. Because if there's restrictions, those can be problematic depending on the dollar amount you will be asking EXIM to cover. If you're just looking for insurance risk protection on that retainage, that balance, that is going to take you,
mhm.
a long time to fulfill the installation and the training. I think our insurance division will take a look at it. Our policies are renewable, but you would run the risk that it may not necessarily be renewed. I believe the better program for you, based on what you described, is EXIM's medium-term buyer financing program, where if you have a customer, this could be public sector risk or private sector risk, depending on the country. Again, the country is very important because in some countries we may be open for the public sector only, and conversely, the markets we may be open only for private sector. So, assuming we're okay with the country risk, we do have a program. It's the buyer financing, where they could get a loan that will be payable over a repayment term ranging, could be 5 years, could be 15 years. And that loan would be made available to the customer by a participating lender. Because we recognize exporters don't have the ability, especially small businesses, to wait, 15 years or even 5 years to be paid. So it's a program where the key to the success is to engage with a bank or non-bank lender that participates in that particular program that EXIM offers, that would enable your buyer to get access to a multi-year loan, while you, from your perspective as the seller, you would be paid similarly to the mechanics of a commercial irrevocable letter of credit, where you would be paid. We do require minimum 15% cash down payment. So we want to see that buyer to have some skin in the game and be able to come up with at least 15%. And then the balance, if the US content is there, is this system made in the US? And is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So if the US content looks like it would be there, so the balance would be payable to you by the lender. The funds don't go internationally, only to come back to the US. So the disbursement of the loan is controlled by the lender that is providing that loan to your customer. So you're paid in advance, the down payment. It may even allow for some progress payments. And then when you ship the product, the balance is paid off to you. And yet your buyer has access to a loan payable over several years. And our role under that program is that of a guarantor. EXIM, under the medium and long-term buyer financing products, we guarantee 100% of that loan. So essentially, we are completely eliminating the risk for you and for the lender. And we do that because we want to encourage the banking sector to have flexibility financing exports. And there's not a bank out there that will do a foreign loan without the backing of EXIM's guarantee, especially, to high-risk countries. So it's a program that it could be beneficial. And then feel free to reach out to me. We could talk more.
We'll do. We have high interest in South Sudan. That's obviously a country that is a difficult place to just do business. And Nigeria, another country that we've had trouble just getting stuff done there.
Let's speak offline whenever it's convenient, and we'll go over, because I will need to review the country limitation schedule. For high risk markets, I'll be very frank with you. Sometimes it can be problematic.
Right. Okay. very much, Sandra. I'll be giving you a call after we're done, probably tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow will be good. Thank you.
Oh, by the way, are you in the local region, as in, are you in the East Coast?
I'm
We're
in
3 hours
California.
time difference. Oh, California. Okay, we're on the same time.
You in Arizona?
Yes,
Wonderful.
well, thank you.
Yes, I'm glad that we got a little momentum there for you, Ed. But yeah, thank you all for your time. We're gonna end the call now, and I hope everyone has a wonderful day. Thank you.
Thank you
you.
again.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Woohoo.